Welcome to Open Tabs. This is our twice weekly breakdown where we cover three stories taking up space in our tabs, our feeds, and our brains. Quick hit, we're all busy gals. First, this is from Megan that we wanted to talk about. Fresh off the press from Wired. Interactive, violent, gross. Inside Fishtank, the unhinged future of reality TV. This honestly, could be a full hour conversation. I highly recommend you, if you're interested in reality TV, to read Wired's piece. But TLDR, Fishtank Live is a completely unedited, 24/7 live streamed reality show where 6 to 10 contestants live in a house and they compete in daily challenges and elimination challenges, all for a $50,000 prize, while viewers can send in insults. Like, they have a live, a speaker system in the house where they will put the awful comments from live viewers. And it's streaming exclusively on their own website and Kick, because they have been kicked off of YouTube and Twitch. And Kick is kind of known for being like the no rules.
Why were they kicked off? Was it just for
They were violating terms of service with violent,
okay.
their challenges get really violent. Like, people will say slurs. The whole thing is like there are zero boundaries. How they're advertising this to viewers is, you live in the walls, you control the action. We've been talking about reality TV for a while, Megan, and you did a whole deep dive because you're making a cultural curve of reality TV, and you talked about. Tell me if I'm not pronouncing this right. The panopticon that reality TV has become.
Way to reference that, Emma. That was bold.
I know. It's like, let me do this on the fly and see how it goes.
Yeah. I think that the reality TV panopticon is being discussed a lot right now because it's tied to the surveillance state, and whether or not you agree with that or whether or not you think that's terrible and reality TV is normalizing it. Again, this could be a whole conversation. But at the end of the day, the idea of documenting the human condition and wanting to have a voyeuristic look into what other people are doing is core to reality TV and the reality TV experience. And so this concept, I feel isn't that new. It's just the extreme that they're taking it to of the interaction and also the abuse. I feel that's very distinctly today and modern and 21st century. And I don't necessarily endorse this show, but I think it is it's the inevitable conclusion of where we're going to end up with the rise of reality TV and social media and the way that internet moderation works.
Oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts on this. I think my first question for the two of you actually is, I'm just curious, do either of you use a live stream social media platform regularly? Do you tune into Twitch at all? Do you guys use that?
No, I think this is I know I'm a zillennial, technically Gen Z, but I'm an old Gen Z. I think this is the more millennial side of me. I'm okay, I have a few hours after work to get my entertainment. I find it's there's too much downtime. I'll if anything, I'd watch highlights on YouTube after the live, but I don't enjoy viewing
So
live.
it's almost like that filler.
Yeah, it just feels filler, and I'm it feels like a waste of time to me.
Got it. What about you,
Yeah.
Megan?
I've had in the past around political things.
Mm.
So I went through a phase where I watched Hassan Piker. I would put it on just because I wanted to know what was happening, and I was maybe not tuned in, but it was playing in the background. But I think an interesting thing that they said in the article that kind of gets at this is they had a quote from the Fishtank showrunner where he said, "If you're an avid Fishtank fan, you have a lot of free time. Probably there's something in your life which isn't optimal." Which I thought was very interesting, and why I think this show is so interesting, not as a endorsement of like this is where reality TV should be headed, but that it's clearly serving a need and being an outlet for people. And I think it's the same as reality TV, but like I said, taken to an extreme. Like we talk a lot about snark and how snark is an important like part of the internet and part of reality TV. And I feel like this is just mashing all of it together.
You know what's so funny hearing you talk about in as you just sort of spoke on that? It sort of reminded me of our conversation. Oh, I just lost my train of thought. Oh my gosh. The other day on Tuesday, we were talking about oh my gosh, I can't believe I just lost my train of thought. I know it's gonna come back.
Social media bans? Was it about social media bans?
It was no well, I lost it. It'll come back to me.
You interrupt us when it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is like people are just becoming more obsessive and like fandoms are becoming more obsessive in general. Another interesting thing from the article is that they were directly inspired by the Swifties and how obsessive they are in tracking Taylor Swift. There's clearly like a need. I don't know if it's like, I think it is a form of escapism. Like it can feel pretty bleak sometimes, like groceries, gas. People want to escape into something or someone. Um, yes.
Now I
Well,
remember. It was reminding me a little bit of our conversation. I don't know if it was Tuesday, maybe it was last week when we were talking about the loneliness influencers.
mm,
And, there was the cut piece on that. And Paulina C was just, one of them who had sort of been fed to me in my algorithm. Ironically, again, specifically on Facebook, not not on Instagram. And I wonder, even as that reference you were saying, Megan, of like the showrunner saying, like, okay, if you're a fan of Fishtank, you have a lot of time on your hands. Like, I wonder, it's like that reference, but then also this like loneliness reference too. It just makes me wonder of like, are some of these more like passe things that people wouldn't normally like talk about, like, oh, I have a lot of extra time, or like, I am feeling lonely. Like, m- is this sort of like, I don't know, it's just interesting to see this becoming like a little bit more comfortable, like, and out there, I guess. Like,
mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, I follow a loneliness influencer because I, you know, feel alignment there, or like, I don't know. It's just interesting to like this idea of like, okay, like this show that you watch is because you have time. And,
Mhm.
and it's not necessarily being presented in a positive way.
I feel like it's like, I think you're totally right. I think it's like a breakdown of like Instagram perfection and people like being more openly honest about like where they're maybe not crushing it in life and finding community there because there are TikTok accounts dedicated to Fish Talk Live where like people are talking to each other about it in the comments. There's a Reddit page. Like people are finding community here. And in addition to the viewers not having a lot going on in their lives, the contestants don't either. They very openly talk about in the piece, like, these are people who like don't have jobs, who maybe still live with their parents as adults because if you have something to lose, you would never go on this show. So they're kind of, it's a whole community
Oh
of
my god, is
people
this
who
that now that sounds like Squid Game
it
also. Like, right?
kind
Like
of,
the contestants that
yeah,
they put on or that get invited into Squid Game are like, they have usually some sort of addiction problem, or they're
yeah.
suffering, or they're like, I don't know, they're not in a great place. Oh, that's so fascinating.
It's really fascinating and it's very much paying off. Last season, they had more than 500,000 people regularly watching, and the producers claim that the show is worth more than $30 million. They're starting to get like corporate advertisers, viewers can like donate to the show, buy things, they'll like sell trash from the house.
Do we know anything about who is watching? Like, is
Um,
it
just they basically call them like Megan said, they're like, yeah, they're kind of like losers, like
But
people
are
who know
they
what's going
well,
on.
no, are they Gen Z? Are they like do we know age or like
They didn't really get into demographics. I would think, though, it was interesting. One of the former contestants has since created a Twitch streaming career. And she said her audience, which largely discovered her from her time on Fishtank, is largely white men. And I think like 20s and 30s. So young
interesting?
adult white men. And I would imagine it's kind of similar demographics for like the entire show.
Interesting. Well, we'll keep
Yeah.
an ear
It's
out.
this article went out yesterday, and since like a bunch of other publications have started writing about it, Joe Rogan recently talked about it, I guess, on an episode, of course. And I highly recommend reading the article. And if you are very interested in like the psychology of reality TV, I highly recommend The Compound by Aisling Rawl. It's a very good book. And it's like Love Island meets Lord of the Flies. Um, it was one of
Definitely
my
put that
top,
in the yeah, you'll link it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next topic from Vox. Why so many millennial brands are dying. So this was kind of spurred by Everlane's recent sale to Shein. Everlane, which was marketed as like a sustainable clothing company, was just bought by Shein, like the biggest fast fashion brand in the world, for $100 million. And they talk about how like Allbirds, the sustainable sneaker company, is now Smartbird, and they are pivoting into AI infrastructure. Quite the pivot from shoes. They talk about Glossier, which like has lost a lot of cultural cachet over the past 10 years. Um, and I think it's interesting to talk about like what makes something a millennial brand. Um, in the article, they say it's like feel good capitalism, like we're a brand, but we're doing good and we're better than these older companies. And I'm curious if you guys agree, or as millennials yourselves, like what you think of the downfall of these brands. Some of them are successful still. They do say like Warby Parker is a standout. It's still doing very well. But I'd love to know your guys' thoughts.
I almost think there would be more to learn from the successes than from the failures. So I wish they had kind of taken that angle so that we could what did Warby Parker do differently than Glossier that is making it so that they're still around? Because I think that it's so clear like the problem with these brands is like a lot of them sold out. Like quite literally, the people at the top sold their company to someone who maybe didn't guard the North Star quite as much. My, I guess I'm going to say favorite, but most heartbreaking, I guess, example of this is Sprinkles cupcakes. Like I love Sprinkles and like it was so good. And then the quality went down and then now they're closed. So it's like, but you could see that happening over time. So I think part of it just comes down to enshittification and these brands allowing themselves to be enshittified by product equity and private equity and the kind of chasing the trend cycle.
I agree. I mean, I think I agree with you and I think having a real um vision for growth and evolution that ties back to the North Star is essential and also like solving a real like problem or challenge for people and like coming back to that. So like if you pull apart Warby Parker, I think what's fascinating with them is that like they, you know, took on Luxottica, which was dramatically overpriced for glasses. Like the glasses industry was like ripe for disruption. And so they came in and disrupted it. They and like that was more of like they were providing stylish, stylish glasses um at an affordable price. And they made it really straightforward and easy. They leaned heavily into tech. They evolved where like you could very easily get glasses shipped to your house to try them on. I think that the tech and their like customer experience was really good. And they were like manic about it. And then I think that the evolution now, I actually recently I hadn't gone into Warby Parker in a couple years. And I'm somebody I don't have great eyes, so I need to get my eyes checked like every year for contact lenses. And they have now made it so easy to completely leave like again, I still get my eyes checked at Lens Crafters, but like I could very easily get my eyes checked at Warby Parker, get a prescription and like just shift everything over there. So I think that like and that wasn't always the case. Like you always had to sort of go and get your prescription from somewhere and bring it there. It's clear that the company solved for that. So, and I think that they have kept it really reliable and they haven't sold out. Like they very easily could have like partnered with like Gucci to have like Warby Parker Gucci sunglasses. And maybe they will. Like, I think it's cool that they haven't though. I think there's an entire world of collaborations that they could be doing if and when they need to. So if I'm like dissecting them and I like compared to Allbirds, which again, I would, they all had the like buy a pair of glasses, someone somewhere else gets a pair of glasses, someone gets a pair of shoes, whatever. I think the biggest challenge with Allbirds is that um, I just don't know if like the technology of the shoe like evolved in a way that felt like there's a fashion element to sneakers, also like a functional element, and I think that their whole thing was that they were wool, and it's like it felt like they had one style, and it's like whatever, but then it just kind of didn't go anywhere else. Um, they also did Small Birds, which was like for kids. That didn't feel like it evolved, and the price point felt very high. Um, so I don't know. I think that they just, to me, it just felt like they really lacked in like a future vision or evolution or like kind of, again, if you go into something that is fashion, even if it's fashion adjacent, I do think you have to have some like rhythm with like the style calendar. Um, and same thing, like I think that they could have gone along that same path. It just didn't feel like a must have or solving a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I yeah, it's really interesting. Maybe I'll like deep this for below the paywall on like a coming cultural gems email because
Right?
more
Just
to
took
say.
over.
I have no, there's so much to say on this, and I want to make sure we have enough time for our final topic. So, heading into that, our last topic, we're going to talk about it live here, but if you want to listen back to it tomorrow, it will be behind our paywall.